And we're back. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jason Levine today, here with Travis Jensen.
Hello.
And this is the last part of our Adobe Live for today, so thank you so much for tuning in. And Travis, today we're going to talk about street photography.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, this is going to be awesome.
I know a little something about it.
Yes, you do. And in fact, now you've been documenting street photography here in San Francisco for well over 20 years.
Oh, no, not. I have not. I've been in San Francisco for that long, but I haven't been documenting that long.
Oh, right,
okay. About half of that.
Half of that,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
And
so a good run.
A good run.
Yeah.
And what I thought we would do maybe first was kind of just go through a portfolio and kind of some of your choice shots and talk about, just, whatever you want to talk about here. Remember, of course, we've got a live chat, so you're going to be getting a lot of questions. You can see our moms are up here. And thank you all again for sticking around. Remember that we'll be back tomorrow beginning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, as well as on Thursday to see more. So if you've got questions for Travis or any of our previous guests, you can find them here. And also you'll be able to watch the replays of all of today's Adobe Lives right here on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. And let us know where you're from. We've been going already for 6 hours today, so let us know who's here and where you are, and we'll give you a shout out. And also, we can't forget that in the last 30 minutes of the broadcast today, we'll be giving away a Creative Cloud subscription.
Sweet.
So, a year of Creative Cloud.
What?
So
Yeah.
you're going to have to use your listening ears because Travis is going to say something, and I'm just going to sort of cherry pick something you said, and that'll become the question. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, you want to
Nice.
take a listen. All right, so cool. There you go.
Don't hesitate. Okay, that's you guys. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
I almost need to put. You know what? I'm gonna pull my glasses out so when I need to zoom in on those comments there,
I know
I'll be able to see them.
I've been avoiding mine all day, but I'll be paying for it tomorrow because I'll be like,
I think all the years of photography is like starting to take a toll on my eyes, especially my right eye. I've noticed. Yeah.
Are you sort of right side
I am.
dominant?
Well, I'm a lefty, but for some reason, the I don't know. I think that's might be my balance.
Interesting.
Having being left-handed with the right eye and the right foot. So.
Right. Okay. Nice. So let's see. We've got Little Jump City, Mexico, Utah, London, Denmark, Oklahoma, Iraq, New Jersey.
Wow.
I saw Cartagena, Colombia.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Amir from Algeria. Very, very nice. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Hello from Germany.
Hello
wow.
from Germany, yeah. And you're going to find, too, it's amazing just how, widespread the audience. And in Germany now, okay, it's midnight there already. So, yeah, again, thank you so much. And, okay, there you can see the play out there, which is awesome. Right. So, okay. So, yeah, maybe we could start and kind of go through some of your work here.
Yeah. Should I introduce myself?
Yeah, maybe give a little bit of a background and kind of tell people who aren't familiar.
So, my name is Travis Jensen. I'm a San Francisco and Los Angeles now based photographer. I moved to Los Angeles about 2 years ago. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. It was just, let's just say it was a little challenging in San Francisco at the time. So we relocated, kind of pitched it to my family as we were going on vacation. We haven't come back from vacation yet.
Nice. That's a good long vacation.
Yeah, it's been a good long vacation, and I like it down there. And as much as I really miss the city and I miss making photographs on the street in San Francisco, I really have learned to enjoy exploring LA. It's all entirely new for me. So it's kind of like I feel like I've gone back to square one. Like I'm really starting over again. I have to feel the uneasiness, the awkwardness. It's not like San Francisco where it's like I know people on every corner. I'll be here and it's like, oh, hey, what's up, man? I know these people. And it's great, but it was good moving to LA to have that new challenge, and I've been in the process of building a new body of work down there. And I think that was, as much as I resented the move, I would say that at the end of the day, it was probably a good thing. It was
kind of like a rebirth of your
creative, like I needed to kind of wipe the slate clean and start over and feel those emotions and feel that uneasiness when I'm out in the street and not knowing what's around every corner and kind of having to tread carefully. Whereas in San Francisco, I become very comfortable.
Sure.
You know the city, Yeah. So it's been fun, and LA is a whole different beast. That city goes on forever, man. It's not like San Francisco where you can be in North Beach and you could hit like 7 or 8 different neighborhoods in the morning alone. Right. Whereas in LA, like I really have to get in the car and go somewhere and like, okay, I'm gonna be shooting photos today in Koreatown, and then if I'm lucky, if I beat the traffic, I'm gonna go downtown.
That's right, yeah, from Koreatown. Good luck, yeah.
Yeah, so I've really been, you know, like just kind of like I would say reinventing my whole approach.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people have said that. They're like, man, your work has changed. It's there's a lot of color.
Right.
A lot of people, you know, will say, like, associate me as being just a black and white.
Right, I was gonna say earlier works a lot of black and white.
Yeah, there's a lot of black and white. Yeah, and it's not because I'm trying to set the mood or you know like trying to portray any certain vibe.
Right.
Like, to be completely honest, like the main reason is because of the light here.
Right.
You know, we have such like so much overcast that it's hard to pull good color out of it. You know, like you really, without just completely, you know, going to dangerous levels in Lightroom with clarity and vibrance.
No, exactly.
And,
it lends itself to black and white photography because of the sky, because of the nature.
Exactly. Like San Francisco looks better in black and white. Don't get me wrong. There's beautiful colorful moments here. I love shooting color.
Right.
But the main reason I was shooting in black and white for so long is because, you know, the light sort of commands it here. I would say, you know, most of the time you have a lot of color, but the light, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. So now in LA, if you look at a lot of my LA work, it's just these crazy colors, you know,
and the city, especially, I mean, in all the different towns, whether you're going, you know, depending upon where if you're on Sunset, or if you're anywhere, there is that sort of different vibrant look kind of on, you know, in every section of the city there. I mean, it's
absolutely
it's different. Right.
Yeah, and I'm just like a total like fish out of water there. Like I'd stick out, I look like I'm not from there, you know, like people, I'm definitely like foreign, you know, but I don't mind it.
Yeah, that's
you know,
nice.
Somebody was telling me that they could tell I was a tourist because I wear shorts.
Oh, right.
In LA.
Well, and that's how you can tell tourists in San Francisco, because they're wearing shorts now in July and August when it's, you know, in the 50s.
And then the dead giveaway is if they have on one of those San Francisco fleeces that you get in Chinatown or in the Fisherman's Wharf.
I love SF.
That's where it just has like the SF emblem right here, and it's a fleece. Like that's... You know, I've known a lot of people that are like, oh, it's July, they don't check the weather, and they come here and they're like, oh my God, it's freezing.
Well, that's that line, right? You know, the coldest winter I ever spent was the summer in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Mark
Twain.
Mark Twain. Yeah,
Mark Twain.
So good.
So that's about it. Street photography is my passion.
How did you get into this?
You know what? It's a funny story. I was telling some of your counterparts earlier about how I got into street photography,
and I know a little bit, but
and it's all like not. You know, it's funny because it wasn't. It was all it was calculated, but it wasn't. Like when I look back and I look at like my life and sort of the directions I've taken in life. You know, like I really feel like I was meant to do this. You know, like everything else, the skateboarding, the street art, the working for the newspaper, the writing stories, like it was all sort of they were all stepping stones to get to this point, like to help me understand, you know, I don't want to know what my photos would have looked like if I was really out taking street photos when I was 18, 19 years old. Like, and you know, I just don't think they would be, you know, as well considered maybe as they are now.
Yeah.
So I started as a skateboarder. That was my life for over 20 years. San Francisco was a mecca for skateboarding.
I was to say, at a time when it was
in the early 90s, this was the mecca. Like if you wanted to do anything with skateboarding, like this is where you wanted to be.
Right.
I knew that I wasn't like the next Tony Hawk or like X Games superstar. Right. But I just wanted to, to be a part of it. I wanted to be in the mix.
The passion for the scene.
Yeah, I mean, I had my bag of tricks, and I was, I was decent, but I knew that I wasn't like that next level skater, and so, but I wanted to be a part of it, like kind of like how the hippies came to San Francisco in the '60s, the Beats. I was drawn to San Francisco. Like I remember being like in 8th grade and was like, man, the second I graduate high school, I'm out of here, and everyone's like, yeah, right, and like that's really what I did. Like I just and never looked back.
Never looked back. Yeah.
It was rough. I had a huge eye opener as a kid. Living in like the SROs and in the single room. If you don't know this, it's an SRO is a single room occupancy.
Right.
And they're not too desirable. They're sketchy. And they're cheap.
Right.
And that's what I could afford.
Right.
From there, I got into writing. I got in some trouble for graffiti. Okay. And instead of writing on walls, I decided that I was going to write stories instead.
Nice.
And then somehow, the next thing you know, I ended up having a weekly column for the Chronicle. I was like 24, 25 years old, and I had a column, which is pretty, like, when I look back on it now, I'm just like, whoa.
How did this happen?
Yeah, how did this happen? Yeah. And that's really kind of where my interest in photography came, is like I was writing these stories and I would spend like 4 weeks on it, like really just rereading this thing 1,000 times and like making sure that, you know, if you pulled one word out of the piece, like the whole thing,
it would just it would fall apart, right?
You know, just having it down just to this, and I would be really proud of it. And then I would go to wherever the photos needed to be taken sometimes, or maybe I didn't go, and then I just wasn't always happy with the photographs. Like I felt like
And you weren't taking them then at that point? Or?
I'll get into that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
I was.
okay.
But at this point I wasn't, and I just wasn't happy with them. You know, like they weren't maybe the vision or the, you know, like it just wasn't there. Like for the photographer, like they just weren't feeling it, or they didn't care, or maybe it just becomes too much of a job for them. I'm not sure.
Right.
So, you know, I'd work really hard on this piece, and then it would come out like a couple of days later, and I was like, oh man, like these photographs like aren't working for me here. Like I don't really feel like it's capturing the story. So then I started taking my own photographs, and I would file them with my story. But then there was weird issues with that. You know, there's weird issues as far as like unions and whatnot go.
Right, exactly.
And, you know, a bunch of stuff. So
newspaper, territorial. I'm staff photographer.
Yeah. Yes. And then from there, you know, after that just kept happening, I was like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna teach myself how to do this. And from there, I just, you know, just went wild.
Right.
I didn't even know what I was doing with street photography. Like I would just walk around with my camera, and I had no clue. Like what I was just like, oh, like this is my environment.
Do you remember what you were shooting on then?
I don't. I don't remember. I had a couple of different cameras, like I had like the very first Rebel, I think, that came out, and like some old like Lumex point and shoots. Like,
yeah.
And then from there, you know, the bug just took over. I tried really hard to fight it. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Like I really prided myself on being a writer.
Right.
Like I was like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And the photos are just to support the writing.
Right.
But then as time went on, like it just, you know, I could just feel it like bubbling. Right. And I was like, oh man, it was like a massive rising water against a dam. Like I just couldn't hold it back.
Well, and I imagine as a writer, being able to sort of compose the photo and tell that same story in a single image, you know, particularly in black and white especially, but that's an additional level of like personal challenge and also accomplishment if you could do that, right? Picture's worth 1,000 words. Probably writing, you know, 2,000 word essays for the paper. So makes a lot of sense that like that you would be drawn to that. Yeah.
And you know, I was really gung ho, like, hey, I'm a writer and I just do this on the side. But then as time went on, like the bug took over, and then, you know, I was taking, you know, focused on pictures and then just writing captions to accompany a picture. So it was like I did like a complete 180 with the craft.
Right.
And you know, and San Francisco is just such an eclectic city. Like you can never get bored making photographs here. It's impossible to get bored. Like just when you think you've seen it all, like somebody pulls the rabbit out of the hat. You know, like,
right.
And
the city is constantly, I mean, even now, especially so much it's constantly evolving and changing, and I mean,
and that's what I love too about it is you know, I was fortunate to be here for that, to like the changes and to capture that, like
to really see that.
Like
period.
if you look at my photos, like a lot of these people, a lot of these places, like they're not here anymore. Like they're gone, and these were the people that really made this city special, in my opinion. You know, I remember, you know, when I was like 18, I was, you know, it was late night, and I don't remember what I was probably up to no good. I was downtown, and I ran into a homeless man, and we got into a conversation, and I don't remember much about the conversation except for him telling me that San Francisco is the lost city of Atlantis, and that we are like the children of Atlantis, like we're the descendants of it. And when I really think about that, like it really like kind of rang true in some ways, you know, like everyone's drawn to San Francisco for some reason or another, whether they're skateboarders, they're riders, they're in our, you know, the LGBTQ community, they're the beats, the hippies. I mean, everyone, you're accepted here. Like this is your home, and like, and you're welcome here. You know, and that's what the beautiful thing about San Francisco is. I mean, there's nowhere else on the like it on the planet. I've been around, you know, a world, and I've never seen anything like San Francisco.
And it's interesting that you say that too, because now, of course, this year, 2017 marks the 50th anniversary of like Monterey Pop, Summer of Love, which technically began in January, but technically, you know, June, July, especially '67. And while a lot of people say, of course, you know, on the surface, it's not that city anymore, but the feeling, that welcoming that you're talking about, the acceptance. Still very, maybe even more so. Rings true here, and in a different way, but it's very much alive and well, and that's kind of what you've been able to capture.
Absolutely. I hear a lot of people, you know, say that San Francisco is so different and it's changed, and they don't like it, and yeah, it has changed. I mean,
it's everywhere changes.
All aspects of it have changed. And you know, and there's a lot of like technology. You know, there's a lot of that. And I always tell people, I'm like, hey, you cannot blame the tech workers. Like, you can't like just cast all this frustration on them, because like they have a right to be here and to do business here too. And you know, just like how, you know, this was a skateboarding mecca, a graffiti mecca, a photography mecca. You know, for everyone, it's like kind of like the same thing. It's like Revenge of the Nerds.
That's
you know, like it really is, and it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And
yeah. Well, dude.
Let's get
into it.
Without any further ado, so I put together a little collection of images today, and I just kind of like grabbed at will. I put together like a mix of street photos.
So no particular order, chronology.
They are in a little bit of an order.
Oh, nice.
They are sequenced in a little bit.
Testing here. I'm trying to see the you know,
I had some prep. Don't worry. I'm not that much of a loose cannon.
No.
So I did do some prep. I have some traditional street photographs, and then I also have some photographs from a long-term project I've been working on out in the Excelsior. Shout out to all my friends from the Excelsior that may be watching this right now. I'm sure a few of them are tuned in. So let's start.
Yeah,
let's start with what's going on here.
So of course, people are asking, what do you shoot with today?
What do I shoot with today? Okay, I'm glad somebody asked that, because when I'm making photographs on the street, first I have my $9 Army surplus store
mystery bag
here.
What's in your bag?
And this bag, I bought this last week at an Army surplus store in Idaho, because I needed a smaller bag. So my friends at the camera bag companies, don't be upset with me. This just worked for me. I needed this instead of a huge pack. So, and this goes along with the theory, like anything works, you know, there's pockets in here. But for street photography, I would say that 99.9% of my photos come out of this guy. And this is a Ricoh GR. It's a Japanese point and shoot, I guess. However, it shoots full manual. It has a fixed 28mm lens, so there's no zoom. That's something that I'm a big fan of. I think that street photography is done best from a close range. That's just my opinion. I'm not the street photography police. Like, if you want to shoot from across the street, it's all good.
It's all good, right?
Yeah, it's all good. So this is my main tool here. So whoever was asking, I would say that 98% of my street images come from this. This thing right here blasts with a kick. I've actually had billboards that I've pulled out of this thing.
Really?
Yes.
So what is, I mean, in terms of like megapixel?
I think it's like 12 megapixels or something like that.
Legit,
it's and then if you're doing, in a TIFF format, it's a pretty big it's a pretty big file. But I love these cameras. The only thing I don't like, I highly recommend these for street shooting. They're perfect. I know a lot of people that only use these. Sadly, I can't do my commercial work with this, so I have a different I have a different setup. So yeah, this is where the magic comes from, and it's nothing special. It's mostly just getting close, framing, and recognizing good moments.
I was going to say, recognizing the moment, right?
And light.
Yeah,
light.
and light.
I heard somebody, I was listening to the cast this morning, and I heard, was it Andrew?
Andrew doing food photography,
I heard him say, like, hey, there's no tricks or gimmicks here. Like, it's really light.
Right. You can't control the sun. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, it's all about light.
Yeah.
So, this is what I shoot with. I also, when I'm on the street, sometimes I always carry that with me, but then I also keep the
classic
iPhone,
right? Yeah. Which is for street photography too. I mean, you're seeing more and more of you're seeing those images on billboards.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen my images from these blown up to a galactic scale. Where I was like, oh my god, like whoa,
it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
If I do say so myself. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I put together this. So I put together a little collection of images here. And they range. I mean, some of these go back maybe 9 years, maybe a little bit more. Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe about that much. But this was actually a funny one right here. Okay. This was downtown. I had no clue that this Patron bottle was right here until after the fact. There was just like an empty Patron. Yeah, no, it was just there. But it was really interesting. I remember my wife and I were having a conversation over the phone. And it was something about like the kids or something, and it was like picking up a little steam, you know. Right. It wasn't like we weren't arguing, but we were just like having a conversation. And I saw this man approaching in this interesting getup here, and I was like, "Whoa, are my eyes deceiving me?" And literally, I just kind of was like, hold on. And I put the phone down, and I could still hear her, like, speaking.
Right, talking.
And I just fired off, like, 2 quick frames really quickly, like, and I had no clue that, you know, I really wasn't even thinking about it at the time until later. I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. And then I noticed that there's this, like, Patron bottle down on the bottom right hand of the frame. And it kind of like that sort of makes the frame. But this is San Francisco right here. It's like you just never know what's going to come around the corner. And this was one of those moments where, you know, I just really have no idea what was going on.
Right. And you didn't approach this.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I happened to, you know, step off of Mission Street.
Right.
I was on Mission Street. I stepped off Mission Street to grab her call, and we were talking. And then I saw him coming down the alleyway.
Right.
Like, and he just walked right past me, you know, and I vividly remember like holding the phone out and hearing my wife speaking and like taking 2 shots.
Right.
And was like, hold on.
Right.
And I just love this one. I don't know why. It's just.
Do you title your photos?
I do, but I try not to be misleading with them. Okay. I don't like. I do title them, but I try not to be misleading with the titles. I'm very careful about. You know, street photography is such like a touchy thing. Yeah, I try not to be, you know, like. I'm trying not to, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to influence.
I was going to say influence or kind of deceive.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to deceive what may or may not be happening here. Right. This was awesome here. I used to see this guy when I was I was working downtown. I was working a day job downtown. And this guy would just like hang out with like a couple of birds and like literally like kind of like had conversations with them. And, I just admired that. Like you can see that there's just a huge like they're obviously are like friends.
Right.
You know?
Right. And the bird didn't just land there. The bird's hanging out.
Yeah, they knew each other. And he had no food. He has no seeds in his hand or anything. And so I just, you know, I would see him, and then I remember this particular day, I was like, oh, this scene is great right here. And he kind of has, you know, I love the hair. It's sort of like the painter.
Yeah.
Who was the painter that was just very calm? Bob. He was the guy that had
Bob Ross.
He's like Bob Ross.
Yeah,
you know,
he's got Bob Ross.
He has Bob Ross hair.
Happy little trees.
And he's happy.
Clouds.
Yeah, and he's got
happy little birds.
Happy little birds.
Right.
And you know, and there was just something very soothing about this to me, and I just was like, oh, like okay, like I like that.
Well, and you really feel. You said it before. You feel the conversation here.
Yeah.
Right. There's something.
And I think that's what I titled that. Conversations.
Oh, really?
Deep
okay.
Ones.
Not deep conversations.
Conversations. Deep ones.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome.
This is in the Tenderloin. This is in Olive Alley, Pigeon Alley, as a matter of fact. I think they call it. And this right here just speaks to living in the city. This is how I felt at some points living in the city, like just you know, completely just boxed in. People on top of you, people below you, on the sides.
I was gonna say, actually, as a San Francisco piece, this in a lot of ways feels like downtown. It has that kind of, it is.
And I think that's what I like when I first shot it. I was going to go in with that in mind, kind of like the city is getting to me, and like the city was kind of getting to me at the time when I took this. It was like maybe 2010, and it was just you know, a lot of changes. We were coming out of a recession, and you know, it was just kind of it was just, you know, getting
you could feel it everywhere.
You could feel it.
So Judah had a great question, and I was going to ask you this too, which is kind of related to the previous two photos. But what is your sort of relationship with your subjects? And that's why I asked you, did you approach the one guy? Do they ever get aggressive or? You know, and I imagine that's
I just tread. You know what? I'm out there, and when I'm out in the street, like I really try to make it be like I belong there. Like I'm a player in the game, and I keep reassuring myself that like my intentions are really pure and good. Like I'm not. I don't want to
exploit or
I don't want to embarrass. Like I'm very careful not to embarrass people. You know, not to poke fun at anybody. I get really saddened when I see that. Like it kind of seems like there's this trend where people nowadays with street photography, and this is just in life in general. Is people like to see like misery or like sadness
or awkwardness
and like haha, like look at him, like you know, and that really bothers me because it's really, you know, that's a go-to for a lot of street photographers, and I really try not to do that. Like I try to portray everyone I meet with a lot of dignity, a lot of respect, regardless of their situation, you know, regardless of.
Which you don't really know anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know anyways because and I think that's, you know, and that's what it is you know, like I'm just comfortable in the street. I've spent so much time in the street, you know, like I said, like the skateboarding was like boot camp, you know, like for me, like that's my comfort zone. Right.
Now in the case of like the conversations photo, did you, I mean, you'd seen
I didn't ask. I just kind of like I just kind of walked up
and you didn't invade the space.
No, I wasn't in. Yeah, I wasn't being. You know, I'm not. I try really hard not to be like an agitator with my camera, like aggressive.
Or to change the scene.
Yeah, or to you know, kind of to you know, to get those kind of like reactions where it looks like somebody wants to punch you in your face. I'm very careful of that.
Yeah. Do you ever have a situation? Stefan was asking where you actually ask.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna show some. I'm gonna show some. Yeah, Stefan, definitely. I'll show you some examples of this.
Very cool.
This was just rad. This was This is just a really cool burnout. I was out in the Excelsior with some friends, and these guys came in to visit. These guys were from Reno, and I put this with. I specifically separated this from my Excelsior project since these guys like aren't from that neighborhood. So like but I just love the photo so much because I remember this day. It was like just really overcast, like that thick overcast where there's just thick mist in the air and you're kind of moist and it's hot and it's humid. And I just you know, and then he was just sitting here just, you know, burning it, and I got him right when he was getting ready to go. And I just love like the ponytails.
I was gonna say,
in the wind. Like that could be you, man.
It could be.
It could be you.
It could have been.
It could have been. Yeah. Okay.
It's giving me a little bit of an Easy Rider vibe too. I was hearing Steppenwolf the second I saw it. Just, again, that kind of misty, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. This is a great shot.
This was funny. I was walking into before I made photography, where I was able to turn photography into a career, I would walk to work from my house, like over on the other side of town. It was a 7-mile walk, or like 7.5 miles. I would walk in the morning, and I would get some of my best shots in the morning because that was the crowd I was more so looking for. Like, I was more so looking, you know, for people, not the late night lurkers. I mean, I do that, but I liked the vibe in the morning. You had people that were in a rush to get to work, people that were kind of going, and they were fresh. Everyone's fresh in the morning.
That's the exact word I was just gonna say.
Granted, they've had their coffee. They're pretty fresh.
But and in this city in particular, I mean, you could say that in any city, but in this city, there's a very different feeling in the morning hours, in the early morning especially, that fresh, you know, I was saying when we were here very early today, like I love coming into the city going through getting to the 6:30. It's very different from 8:30 to 9:00.
Yeah.
Like it really changes. You could say similar things about a lot of cities, but there's a very specific change that happens here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this just makes me laugh. I just thought it was funny.
It is perfect.
The obvious.
Oh yeah, no, right.
And then, they're parked. You can't really tell here, but this is a bus stop lane, so it's just a double whammy here.
Now, was this that same camera or another?
No, this was a. You know what? This was a 5D, I think.
Okay.
I think that I was kind of getting anti point and shoots.
Oh, okay, in this period.
At this particular period, and I went back to my main rig.
Right.
But
it's got incredible detail. That's why I was curious.
Okay, so this was the night of the 2012 Giants World Series win.
Okay.
And it went to the dark side that night.
Right.
This here, I would say maybe like 15 minutes after I took this, I got whapped with a billy club for taking photographs.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, I was very upset about that.
Well, and I was going to say, too, I mean, again, talking about getting in front of people, I mean, you're in front of sort of the riot police here.
Yeah, so they're coming through here. This is the sweep. If you're in their way, you're going down.
You're going down.
But
so you got out of the way, and they still hit you with the club.
Yeah. So then moving along, and actually the reason this image works for me so well is, there's a lot of foreground here. It goes against the rules, like having these guys like center plane. But this Giants thing, like this scrawl right here, kind of balanced it out for me.
And you've got like incredible shadow detail in there too. I mean, you really.
And I think that's because from the headlights in the back there.
Right. So much illumination from the background.
And this was a crazy night. Like this night was like. This night was crazy, and I think anyone that's watching this that was there in 2012 would agree that this was a pretty crazy night. Excuse me, real quick, guys.
Oh yeah, sure. And while you're doing that too, so Fong was asking, and you've already kind of talked about some of this, but like, how do you see your subjects, and do you categorize them in a stereotypical way, or do you look deep into them for like a perspective and how you sort of categorize the type of photo it is or anything like that?
Man, that's kind of a deep question. Who asked that?
Fong.
Oh, okay, right on, Fong. Let me see. I would say I don't know what it is that draws me to photographs. Like when I see it, I know it, but I can't really describe it, you know, because I can't really anticipate it. Like I don't have anything that I'm specifically looking for.
Right. Okay. Someone asked that too. That was the follow-up.
Street photography is so crazy because it's a total. It can drive you like mentally crazy because. Like I've said this in the past. Like there'll be days where I'll walk around for 8 hours and I'll come home with nothing. Nothing. And you think is that a lack of inspiration, or you've seen it and therefore you don't need to recapture it? I think it's a little of both, and I also think that street photography relies on the energy on the street. Sure. Like certain days are better. Like it's really weird. Like Thursdays are like great street photography days. Yeah, like. Like the day coming to the weekend, there's a lot of energy out there.
Sure,
like people are kind of more energetic.
Ramping it up, right.
Yeah, so this was the direction things were going. They had this guy down on the ground. It was funny because I don't know who this is, but he's wearing my friend's sweatshirt right here.
Oh, interesting.
Shout out to my friend Ferris Plock. I don't know if he ever noticed this, but he's wearing his sweatshirt right here. And 5 minutes after this is when I got hit with the billy club, and I was not happy about that.
Weren't arrested or anything?
No, I wasn't arrested, but I was hit from behind. I was sucker punched from behind, and the person that did it wouldn't fess up to it, and so I think that just kind of made me a little bit more upset.
Yeah.
But anyways,
got the shot though.
Yeah. I love this photo here. This blew my mind. This was in 2009, 2008, 9. And just the level, I mean, this, I can't even explain. Like, this is off the flat ground.
Right.
And I remember this specifically because my first son was born, like, the next day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the next day. Like, my oldest son. So, yeah, so it was about 8 years ago. So my first son was born, like, the day after I took this.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so it was, and it's just, growing up as a skateboarder, I always personally felt that, like, Ollie photos like this, they were always my favorite, just as opposed, like I really love, the flip trig sequences and all that. But this just really, I just thought this was cool.
And this sort of speaks to, again, sort of shooting manually, obviously high shutter speed here.
Oh yeah, I was at like 500th.
Right, because I'm going, you don't know what's going to happen. You just kind of saw the guy probably like amping up to do it, and there you went.
And it was boom, and
that was it. You got that one chance, and you nailed it.
Yeah, and you know, my camera settings are quite, you know, different. If, for people that want to know.
Oh, they definitely want to know.
Okay, so if anyone wants to know, I kind of shoot my cameras like film cameras as far as my digital. Like even like during the middle of the day, I'll be on shooting. I usually keep the camera at at ISO 1600.
Okay.
So I'm like pushing 400 speed film 2 stops.
Right.
I like that because that way I can shoot between f16 and f8, and I'll have like a wide depth of field. I'll be able to get more in focus. For me, I'm more about getting things
more in
focus.
Yep,
as opposed
you can see
to
that, right. You don't need just shallow depth.
I don't like. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, there's a time and a place for the shallow depth of field, but for street photography, I think the real challenge is getting everything in focus, and composition is like not having distractions or people, you know, like someone's head's poking out behind him or something, you know. But you can't, and it's really hard to make a good street photo,
right?
You know, like it's
and I would say too, whereas some would say that, you know, shallow depth of field can be equally challenging for some things, but in the case of street photography especially, it's all these things lingering in the background that make up this whole composed image that you saw.
Exactly.
Right. And for you to see them, you've got to be at, you know, above f8. You know.
Yeah. So I would say like, you know, let's see what I'm at right here. Yeah. So I usually shoot in aperture priority. That just seems to work best. Yeah. I'm at f8. Yep. I don't know if I'm at 1600 on my ISO. I'm at 800 probably because it was really, really, really bright when I was using this. But yeah, I do usually in San Francisco. I'll shoot at 1600 ISO, which is like pushing black and white Tri-X film 2 stops. Right. So for all these film shooters out there, I do kind of still take that method, that approach, and I stay between f8 and f16, and then I stop down as necessary. Right. And then when it gets too late, I'll pull out the flash.
That's
usually.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And even then, I love dragging the shutter with the flash.
Right.
You know, that's like I love doing that. I love this photograph here. This was just, I was walking to work again, and this was probably about 7:30 in the morning, and I look over and I see this man, like kind of this Dr. Seuss scene, walking down the middle of 6th Street with this. And this is not staged. This was totally random.
And that's what's so funny.
That was with this.
Right. And until you really look at this and realize that you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I mean, the guy's carrying like 15 boxes, you know.
I think it was like some sort of a I have no clue.
Right,
like,
you don't even know. Right, that's it.
I have no clue. It looks like it might have been some sort of I have no idea. Right. Like, this is why I love San Francisco. Right. You just never know.
You never know what you're going to see around the corner.
You never know.
Ooh,
this,
another classic.
So,
shallow depth of field in this one.
So this, I did do a shallow depth of field because I really, really wanted to highlight like this man, his eyes, his beard.
Nose,
I'm convinced that this man is a time traveler. Like, I'm not even kidding. This is like Yosemite Sam.
He does look
Gold
like
Rush.
Sam. Yep.
He looks like he came straight from the Barbary Coast days. Right. I've seen him one time. I never saw him. This was maybe 2010.
Okay.
And I have not seen him since. I have not seen him since. I have no clue.
Right.
But when I look at him, I'm just like, wow, like this is unreal. And I usually don't shoot portraits like this, you know, but I just felt, I remember this one, I like really stopped down. I was like at like 1.8.
Right,
like a light. I had like a very small little fill flash, like a really small one, and I was like, oh, okay, this is how this needs to be done. And it worked well. So there's a time and a place for it. Right. I think that when you have time, it doesn't hurt to shoot wide open.
Right.
But for me, you know, I have to shoot so fast without any forewarning that, you know, for me, it's just trying to make sure everything's in focus and that the light's decent.
And I love sort of the contrast between that one and the previous one, right?
Like where this just goes to infinity.
Right, yeah.
This is on 6th and Market, and this I just think is like, this is just one of those funny ones where it was like, I just kind of walked up and took a picture, and then this lady like just went into this pose, And it wasn't until later that I noticed that it was like a knuckle sandwich.
Right.
The knuckle sandwich. So
beautifully composed and
yeah, and then there's like the one
as well.
Yeah, the one eye kind of coming out.
Yeah. And the other eye obscured by the knuckle.
By the knuckle,
also,
yeah. Kind of looks like a black eye.
Very symmetrical thumbs there too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy, dude.
And it was funny because I'm part of a photography crew called PhotoMish, and that stands for Focused on Truthful Outcomes. So that's sort of my, and that's sort of our whole approach is just, like real street photography. Right. And I always wanted to, I couldn't help but like think about knuckle tats, like PhotoMish,
right.
So shout out to PhotoMish, to all the, we have people in all over the world. Right. In our crew. So I'm hoping some of them are tuning in.
Yeah.
This is what you guys used on. This was actually like a really cool moment here. This is, I think, what you guys used for the teaser video. This one here.
Yep.
This I was over near the Valencia Gardens in San Francisco with some friends, and these guys came pulling up, and I remember being like, wow, that bike is like really big for this kid.
Right.
And it stalled, like, and he was having problems with it. Like it was like way too big.
Right, okay.
and then I remember, I started shooting photos, and he was already kind of frustrated because he couldn't get it to crank, like he couldn't get it to start. And I just took this photo, and you could tell he was kind of like, "Hey, man, like I'm kind of having a moment here."
Yeah.
But then it all ended well. Some of my friends like got him going again, and they were back out there. But shout out to all the bike life people out there. I really support that bike. I don't know if you guys are familiar with bike life in San Francisco. It's kind of like the guns down, bikes up.
Right.
It's going like really. Bringing like a lot of neighborhoods together, which I'm really big fan of that.
Absolutely.
So you'll actually see a lot of motorcycles. You'll see a lot of cars drifting in here. This was actually, this was actually for a campaign right here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, this, or not a campaign, but a study rather. Yeah. This is one of my friends. He's got amazing handles. This was with
gorgeous
the 5D.
Too. Yeah, gorgeous composition.
The light was just
is perfect.
Well, the light was terrible this day, but I don't know. Somehow this one turned out.
It works, right? I mean,
somehow this one turned out pretty.
And again, all this detail and shadow detail under the car. I mean.
And then this is another one.
So where
this was
here?
film. So this is so we're out in Excelsior here.
Okay, this is Excelsior.
Yeah, we're out in the Excelsior here. This is film. And this was just one of those ones where I just was like, I remember getting this roll back, and I was like, oh wow, like dang, this turned out really cool.
I think it's beautiful grain here too.
Yeah, you can really see, and this is 16. This was definitely 1600, probably between 5, 6, and 8.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Yeah. And now I can see what you mean actually by the sky.
Yeah, and that's like I really hate blown highlights, and that's why I think that like I really like stay in that F8 F16 range. Like it drives me nuts to have blowouts.
Yeah.
This is San Francisco 3.0 right here. This really, in my opinion, this speaks to like the current San Francisco. Like
no doubt.
There's a lot of like weird symbolism in here that kind of just was here randomly. I'm not going to point them all out.
No, but I mean, you've got the obvious, trio there of McDonald's, self, and no.
Yeah. I don't think that this guy was taking a picture of him. I
no,
don't know.
It looks
Maybe,
like he's just. It looks like he's in transit texting and stopped for a second. I think I was going to say that. In fact, it actually looks like he doesn't even see what's in front of him.
Yeah. I do not photograph homeless individuals. It's something I do not do, or disenfranchised. It's something I do not do. It's a personal choice. Right. If other people like to do it, your camera, your lens, go for it. I just don't personally do it. But this here, when I saw this, I was like, you know what? Like, this is really like speaks to me right here. And I remember like walking past this scene and being like, this really sums up San Francisco, like the current San Francisco. There's like a huge divide, and it's probably going to be a while before like this all comes together like this, and
now with a shot like this, was this pretty much like a walk by?
I just walked up and took it, and maybe
split?
took a couple.
Okay.
Took a couple, and then
was he lingering there for a bit? I mean,
yeah, he was there for maybe like 30, 40 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it feels that way. It really, and again, for people who've been here, especially like in Market, around Union Square or something.
Man, and it breaks my heart. I just hope that we can eventually like get to a solution with this, and where where there's not so much of a divide. Like it's the housing shortage here is pretty crazy. Myself being a victim of it too. Like really, I came home one day and it was like, whoa, my rent doubled. Oh whoa. Right. So then that's when I said to my wife and kids, we're going on vacation.
Vacay, right?
Yeah, and I haven't came back.
Right. So I'm assuming we're in the LA era.
Oh no, we're still here. We're in.
Okay,
so here we're at. I want to say we're at the 2010 World Series. Yes, we are at 2010.
Oh, I didn't even notice they were wearing Giants, and of course it's orange.
Yeah.
Good,
so this is when they start blowing. This is when the confetti was just going wild. Obviously, if I put this in black and white, it would not work at all.
Right.
So I just kept it in color. It's pretty much full frame, not cropped.
By the way, some nice props from Collision Cato here. Says, thank you for placing value on the homeless community by choosing not to exploit their struggle.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's cool. I'm glad. I'm really glad that people are recognizing that.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying cool. It here. Yeah. And you're right, because especially in this city, and like I was talking with Andrew this morning, who's from New York, which they had their sort of the cleanup of the city years ago. With Giuliani back in the 80s, and I grew up there, so I remember that too. And I remember going there in the 80s, and it was some scary stuff.
Yeah.
And you go today, I mean, it's
I remember the first time I went to Brooklyn in the 90s. I got off the train. I don't remember where I was, but I got off the train. I looked around and was like, ooh, and went right back down.
Yeah, right. No need to explore. Don't get off here. But for people who haven't been here, it would be very easy. Mm-hmm. Right. If that was going to be your thing, you could do it, and like you said, your camera, your lens.
If that's I don't do it.
No.
It's and I think it has to do. I think it has to do a lot with my background as a journalist. My own. I struggled tremendously here as a young man.
Right.
Like I really. Right. I really, let's just say, I really paid a lot of dues here. Right. Like really, like.
Yeah, hard stuff.
Was struggling hard,
right,
for many years, but I was determined to see it through. Like I was, and now I look back on it, and I'm 30. I'm 38 now. I'm pushing 40, and I look back on it, and I'm like, man, I do not know if I could do that again. Like,
right.
I could tell you some like insane stories of like, seeing people get hit with televisions, like thrown out windows, like craziness.
And sometimes
people getting stabbed. Some people getting stabbed right in front of me. All sorts of stuff. But anyways, on to the next image.
Yes.
I love this image because, for one, I mean that's just a tremendous amount of strength this guy has right here. Right. And and like some friends and I literally just walked into this. This is at the Civic Center, where there's no shortage of action. The Civic Center Plaza here in San Francisco. I love these women underneath the feet right here.
I know, man. I mean, again, that moment.
And this here is funny because this guy on the left here is an undercover cop. And
really?
Yeah. My friend spotted it. Like I don't know if he's just. He's tuned in like that. Yeah. And he was like, "Yeah, that's a cop right there." And then he called him out, and then it was funny because like they had to switch him out because his cover had been blown.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
interesting.
But I just love the positioning on this. Like everything was just, it's kind of one of those rare instances where all the stars align.
Right. Well, and there were a couple questions too where people are saying like, how do you compose some of these shots?
Oh man, you know what? Street photography.
You're on your feet.
Street photography is boot camp for photography.
Right.
You learn how to shoot so fast, with like just on a fraction of a second, and you're just trying to get the light right, and you're trying to get, just trying to get everything in focus, make sure the light's right, and then like come up with an interesting, composition in a half of a second.
In half of a second.
Yeah, like you really have to like shoot like frame or meter, frame, compose, shoot, like all just boom, and it happens,
and then move on,
and then move on, I really love this photograph.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I think it's just a cool one. Obviously, you know, needed to be in color.
Yeah.
This guy was just hanging out, literally.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Great one, too.
Okay. So this is a posed photograph. Obviously, I didn't just walk down. And this is actually a really good friend of mine. This is my friend Rasa Dave. He's from the Excelsior district.
Okay.
I've been working with him for the last 5 years on his photography.
Right. Nice.
I recognized, you know, that talent that he had. I would like right away. I was like, this guy's very talented.
Yeah.
And he told me, he was like, hey, you know, like I really want to learn. You know, like I want to learn how to do this. And I was like, hey, I'll teach you everything I know.
Right. Nice.
You know, because that's I really feel like that's our duty as creators. You know, it's our duty to teach those that really want to learn.
Right.
And so that's why people email me, and I always try hard to like
respond.
get back. Yeah, like, oh, hey, let me check it out, or like, do you have any tips or this or that?
That's huge. And that, you know, you should know too, that was kind of the whole impetus to put this together was for people to share, not just share knowledge, but just, you know, and share the stories, but really share what they can for others who are really engaged and want to learn and want to do these things. We've already had so many people saying, yeah, I don't shoot street photography. This is making me want to do it. Someone actually said boot camp earlier too, so it's funny that you just
cool. Yeah,
that.
it is. It is boot camp. I think, in my opinion, if you can shoot fast on the street, you can shoot anything. You can be put into. I can be put into any. You can put me in a padded room, and I'll figure out a way to make something. You know, like I really think that all photographers, especially photojournalists in particular, should spend like a couple of years getting themselves comfortable shooting on the street. It's the best form of it's the best cure for any social anxiety that you may have, because you're forced to interact with people you don't know. You're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. I love it. I love it now. Like I like that awkwardness, that nervousness. You know, because I'm like,
thrive on it a bit.
I do. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. It's like become kind of like, it's like those adrenaline guys that like jump off with bungee cords. It's the same thing. Like I like that like kind of awkwardness,
awkward tension.
That tension, but I always just remind myself that I'm out here with good intentions, you know, and
that's
so,
huge, man. That's
you know,
huge.
And so that no matter how weird something gets, like I feel like I have a force field around me. You know, my friend right here and I joke all the time. We call it the photomish force field. Like you're not touching me. I have the photomish force field.
That's right.
And that's the trick. Like if you can make photos on the street and you know and you're personable and your intentions are true, it's the most exhilarating experience ever. It's like getting up in front of 1,000 people and speaking in front of 1,000 people. You know, it's some people, they like it. You know, they love that, you know, the adrenaline. And I think that's kind of where I am. But this was for an Apple campaign. This was for an Apple campaign, and I love using. I try hard to use my friends as much as possible, to include my friends in everything I do. I love, you know, my squad. We're very close. I prefer to use them as models and them as assistants. You know, for everything I do, like I really try to include the team. Like, you know, like if one of us is eating, like all of us should be eating.
That's right.
And I really try that. You know, I really try to include everybody in everything I do in some way, shape, or form. I love this.
Great one.
The crazy thing is, so this is an iPhone photo, and this was taken, and I remember like I was trying to move quick, and I didn't slide and this was maybe from like 2011 or something, and I didn't slide the phone all the way over to like the full vertical, so it's like I'm stuck with this square crop, and like I'm like, like damn it, like like, darn it, like I'm not a big fan of the square crop. I mean, there's a time and a place for it.
It's become a thing, right?
Yeah. But this was another one of those ones where like all the stars align, like just, you know, the hair, like
hair, color, light.
And I later found out that this individual's name is Jupiter. And then when I look at this photo and like I see this going on in the background, and it's like, oh my goodness, like, whoa. you know, and you know, I just love it. Yeah, this was on 7th and Market.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
right around the same
yeah,
areas.
Same area. Yeah, Stefan was asking again too. Do people ever ask you to see the photo after you take it?
Yeah, a lot. You know, and I'm always I try hard not to embarrass people or make them look funny, so I'm always comfortable with that.
Right. Exactly.
You know, I'm always like, yeah, no problem. You know, I was telling somebody earlier that, you know, I've really seen the power of this craft. And what I mean by that is I've had people, I've taken photographs, and this is why I don't photograph homeless people or try not to poke fun at people.
Right.
You know, that's a huge trend right now, and it bothers me. But the main reason is because I've seen the power of this craft, where I've photographed people and I've put, you know, like I've put the picture up, and then, you know, some time will go by and someone will be like, hey, that's my brother. I haven't seen him in 30 years. This is a beautiful picture. Do you know where I can find him?
Right.
You know, and I've had that happen not once, not twice, but like a handful of times.
Right.
But one particular instance, I'd taken a photo of this man, and he was, you know, he had this beautiful, like, this long beard, and he was selling orchids, and it was just like a, you know, just a really beautiful human being. And I was like, oh man, I'd love to take a portrait of you. Right. And I actually like interviewed him too. This was maybe like close to 10 years ago. I did like a short little interview, wrote a cool little piece. Yeah. And his family ended up seeing it, and they were like, oh my God, that's my brother. We haven't seen him since he came to San Francisco in the 60s for the hippie, like, to be part of the Summer of Love. Right. And like, we haven't seen him since. Wow. And I'm like, wow. You know, so then I'm like, okay, well, let me see, like, let me talk to him. You know, and I
Right, maybe
so
there's a reason.
Yeah,
for
maybe
that.
there's a reason he doesn't want to see you. But then I
Right.
saw him, and he was like, yeah, that would be really cool. Wow. And so I put them back in touch, and I was like, wow. Right. You know, and so that's how powerful this craft is. And that's why you have to be very careful the way that you portray people. Right. You know,
in not embarrassing situations.
Yeah, like you gotta, like, you know, and you have to remember, like these are somebody's brother, it's somebody's uncle, it's somebody's aunt.
Well,
you know,
and you nailed it too in terms of like trends, because you know you can look at YouTube and things where, you know, it's those kind of epic fail video images. It's all about embarrassment. It's really,
people love looking at somebody else's misfortune for whatever reason. I don't know, but. Okay, this image here, this is rad. I actually know this guy.
Okay.
I've developed since taking this, I've developed a relationship. So this is Tony, this is Merp.
Okay.
And I walked up on Tony, and Merp was just kind of hanging out. And then I kind of like gestured with my camera to take a flick.
Right.
And he was like, you know, and I didn't really give him enough time to like really respond, and so he does his thing. But I like ended up like scaring the bird.
Right, I see. You can see there's some. And I love like the
flapping here. Yeah. And so anyways, I ran into Tony a while, like maybe a couple years ago, and I asked him about Merp, and she's sadly no longer around. But I love. I mean, this is just rad. I wish I just could walk around with a hen on my shoulder.
That's
like
right.
that. I have that trainer.
Right. I mean, and that's, again, hens don't typically have not sharp nails. So I imagine that's not so comfortable. In fact, you can see.
And I love the hair. He kind of has like a Robert De Niro kind of look going here.
Yeah.
So,
great face.
Okay, so this is an example of something that I was shooting something else and like literally like looked over, and this just
was
unfolded right in front of me.
Wow. Okay, and I see. That's olive there.
And this is where all the pigeons were taken right there. Yep. I was photographing something else like literally 3 feet away, and I turn around and this started unfolding.
Now with something like this, I mean, again, this is like you're taking some risk here, right? You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but it's just. You know, I felt compelled to take it, and you know, you can't see who the individual is that's being arrested. You know, but this just looks like some Wild West like cop scene.
Right. No, I mean, you've got a knee on someone's back there. You know,
and I remember a bunch of people were like, "Oh man, that's too bad about his shoes are gonna get scuffed or something." I don't know. Are they Jordans or something? But yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes things just arrive, you know, just kind of This I love right here because this is funny. I was, man, shout out to the UT Grindwear crew. These are my friends that are out in Hunters Point. They have a clothing line called UT Grindwear. And we were doing a little shoot. Like I was just kind of, you know, I was helping them out. We were taking some photographs and some of the gear. And I got photobombed by the SFPD.
I see that, yeah.
You know,
so great.
but it actually like worked out good.
They're like smiling. Too.
Yeah, they were smiling.
Actually,
yeah, it's like
yeah,
they were like it was a photobomb. It was great.
And this one looks like did you have the flash?
I
on
did.
This one?
I love you know, I do love flash. I love flash work. You know, and especially, you know, when the lights maybe, you know, like you might need a little kind of diffuse a little bit, so the flash works well. Love this.
God,
this is one of my really good friends. This is one of my this is one of my really good friends, and this was outside of my. This was maybe 4 years ago. This was outside of my local corner store. He was really cool. He just let us do this kind of stuff, and we later turned this into a T-shirt, into a Photomish T-shirt, which we sold exclusively at this liquor store.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So cool, dude.
So it was cool. Like, I just like doing fun stuff like that. It's really not, like, for me, like, I'm not, like, I've always, you know, I'm not trying to, like, hit home runs with, you know, like, the photo career.
Right.
You know, for me, it's more so about, like, longevity.
Right.
Like, having like a career,
it's the legacy, the story behind it all.
Yeah, I like, you know, for me, I'm not in any huge rush to, like, make it, and, you know, for me, I really just, I enjoy the ride, and
no pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy the ride,
so what's the title of this one? I'm curious.
I don't know if we had a title for this, but this is my good friend Val. And he's always down to, like,
it'd be funny if you called it quick and convenient. You know?
Yeah. He's always down to let me do these, you know, like take photos of him doing things in his Skylark. This is the 1972 Buick Skylark. If you guys don't know, it's got gold things here on the wheels.
My grandfather had that car until the 80s. Actually.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so I recognize it very well.
I have a 70,
not with those rims though.
I have a 71 Skylark, but I don't
nice.
have these rims on mine either. They don't really fit my personality.
Right.
But this guy, this is a really good friend of mine. He knows this car inside and out. And so when I bought mine, it was he was a tremendous help having him, because like this guy knows this Skylark probably as much as I know, you know, these cameras.
This camera, right? Yeah.
So I love the Buick Skylark. It's a beautiful car. This is a very popular car in San Francisco too, amongst certain crowds. Oh, so
classic.
Yes, this I love this. Not because of the obvious, but I just love the dog. I was gonna say the dog. It's the dog makes the photo for me.
Dog is talking to you.
The dog is like, hey man, like what's your problem? Right. You know, like hey man, like just like what's your deal? I love it.
If ever there was that, and what's even cooler is that you've got the other subject in glasses whose eyes are obscured. So his expression is.
And this is why I love San Francisco. It's beautiful. Like you know, just the diversity here, you know, is just beautiful, and you never know what you're gonna see. And you know, and this guy ended up being really like just awesome. Yeah. You know,
this is another great one, an example of where like the color here really lends itself to this.
Yeah, it would have probably been it wouldn't have worked. It would have worked, but it wouldn't have been
as powerful.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as powerful. The same with this. This is I love this woman. I see her in the Tenderloin all the time. I call her the queen.
Okay.
You know, just. That's the queen of the Tenderloin right here. Right. I actually have photographed her in front of this same. Like I've ran into her in the same exact location several times. Right.
How funny.
How that happens, I don't know. But I think, the coat's awesome. Like the glasses, the hat, the double hats, so that is the end of this.
Okay.
I was thinking now I could show you some Excelsior work. Okay.
Oh, and by the way, before you get there, people were asking, so are you going to show...
let's ask some... Yeah. Should we answer some questions?
Well, and people were wondering if you were going to show how much or what sort of processing you do
to
some of your images.
Oh, much respect to the Photomish crew. Nice. Oh, that's Jan. Yeah, there's one of my... Some of my friends are chiming in here.
Oh, nice.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we can do some of the process. I do have a couple of. I did bring a few raw images that we can.
Well,
load.
let's do the Excelsior stuff. Right? We've got another hour. So yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think people are loving.
Okay,
this
people
too.
aren't bored with you guys. Aren't bored with me yet.
Come on, man. No. And again, if you've got any questions for Travis, shout them out here. I think you're inspiring a lot of people to kind of get out and shoot. And more importantly, I think the comment you made before really. And it's funny because we had Eric Kim on a live stream here.
I know him.
Yeah,
I know him. Yeah.
And he talked about similar things, and one of the sort of themes was, you have to be close, you have to get out there, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there too.
Yeah.
And this concept of if you can do this that quickly, compose and frame and shoot and get it in focus and move on, you can shoot anything.
Absolutely.
And this is huge advice.
And I think, and what I was thinking for tomorrow, if you guys aren't completely bored with my drivel by then, that by tomorrow I was thinking I could show you how this translates into commercial photography. Yeah. I did take the time to put together a gallery of some of my commissioned work, and that's rare because I don't really put it out there that much.
Nice. Okay.
There's a lot of stuff I've photographed that most people would have seen, and they would probably have no idea that it was mine.
Right. Okay.
And I love that. Because
hey, man, multifaceted, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. For years I struggled with okay, how am I going to turn this into a business?
Right.
I tried the gallery route. People just, you're not going to make a living off selling prints unless you're, one of the masters.
Right.
So I started dabbling with, commercial photography and kind of discovered that I had a knack for it in the sense that, I can't really be defined by any category. Like for me, if you were going to hire me to do a hotel campaign, I'm comfortable, doing the exterior, the interior, all the neighborhood neighborhood stuff, all the portraits and all the details. I'm not just kind of a one-trick pony, and that goes back to what street photography. It's really made me be able to step into any situation and make something work. So here we are with the Excelsior work. I just put together a short little gallery here. For people to check out. I think I just pulled 20 images, and this is 20 images of 20,000 probably.
Okay. That's a good question. Yeah, how many do you shoot on average? Now I know you said some days you shoot nothing, but on a good day,
if I'm out shooting photos in the street and I come home with 2 images that I'm really stoked on, I'm
you're
yes.
Winning. Yep.
I'm winning, winner chicken dinner. I'm stoked.
That's another good piece of advice because, and I learned this from another photographer when I was getting into it years ago too, which is, they were portrait photography, but they often said, a model comes in or someone comes in, and again, shooting digitally, we're shooting 200, 300, 400 frames. And his comment was, if I get one,
that moment,
rock it. And you know it when you got it too.
And everybody else
knows it too, but it's and I like that. You get 1 or 2, good day, and that's it. And I think people get sidetracked because it's this idea that I shot 300. How could nothing be great, or how could only one?
Absolutely.
And that's again a cultural thing that we feel like it all has to be worthy, and it's not all of it is great.
Yeah, you have to be. I think with photography is you definitely have to pull out the pruning shears. And don't be afraid to cut.
Right.
I'm a fan of less is more.
Yes.
That's just been me.
Yeah, because you could shoot 80 frames or whatever in a day, and But
and sometimes I won't. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes the stuff that I think are winners, I'll pull them up and I'm like, oh, this is a dud, and then something else actually looks better that I just wasn't even that I really wasn't
considering.
Even,
earlier,
I wasn't even really aware of at the time. Yeah. But it's definitely editing is key with street photography. And you know what? I like to be completely honest, the images I like are the least popular. And maybe it's because there is some sort of circumstance, some sort of the circumstances, some sort of a weird emotional attachment.
Yep.
But the images I tend to like are the least popular. And sometimes it has to do with the image being too complex.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's the thing about street photography is like, it's, you know, it's really hard to make a nice street image, and the deeper you get, the more artsy and out there you get, you start losing your viewers, sadly.
Right.
Like, sadly, in, you know, today, you know, because of like Instagram, I would say you really have like 10 seconds to like fully engage.
Right.
for your audience to consume, and digest an image. Like, and they have to be able to do that all within 10 seconds, or it's too much. It's too much. Yeah. And it's sad because like some of my favorite photographers are like people, they just like don't even have the Instagram following at all, and these are like just rad shooters, you know, people that I'm like, wow, that's brilliant.
Right. Yeah, and I think that too.
And I don't know why that is. I really do not understand like what has happened to our attention spans. Like, you know, I guess it goes along with the whole thing. Like, the internet has just been a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Right.
You know, it's definitely made us all very like ADD in the sense that like we can't get the information quick enough.
Right.
You know,
and if it's not at the speed we want, then it's worthless.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
There's that thinking. By the way, Roger just said culture. Travis's photos capture it well. Also, one of the few remaining neighborhoods where OG San Francisco remained.
Oh yeah, right on, Roger.
Yeah. And so a couple of people have been asking what Excelsior is exactly.
Oh, so yeah, the Excelsior, is a district in San Francisco. In my opinion, it's kind of like the last, like, blue-collar, working-class San Francisco neighborhood that hasn't had too much turnover or change. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't want to get into a debate about neighborhoods here, but that's just my opinion, and it's something that I've recognized for years. So I guess we can get into some of these. So,
and by the way, everyone was saying no, don't stop, keep going. Definitely not bored at all. So yeah, you're rocking it. That's great.
Okay, cool. So I put together 20 images here. This is something I've been working on for about 5 years now.
Spanning 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's done, and you know, at one point in recent months, my friend Rasa Dave and I, who went from just being a facilitator and putting this together, and is now, you know, we're co-authoring this.
Right. Okay.
You know, like, I just felt that was the right thing to do. I'm a fan of his photos. You know, I watched him just pick up the craft and like really dive headfirst into it. Like, you know, and so I was like, man, we're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
You know, and I had somebody that kind of had done the same for me. You know, there's a photographer named Brad Evans, who he was a street photographer in San Francisco. He was active up until maybe 8-9 years ago. Okay. I mean, he still shoots photos, but he's not like he's not like out there like hardcore prowling, you know, lurking for photos. But he, you know, he kind of did the same with me. He and I had collaborated on a book called Tenderloin USA. And it was like a photo book about the Tenderloin, and you know, where he learned maybe a lot about the street dynamics. Like, I was learning more technical things from him.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like where, you know, that was a neighborhood I'd lived in as a young man and was going wild in the streets. You know, I was kind of showing him what was going on, like kind of explaining him the relationships between certain people. And he was kind of giving me some technical advice. Like, he had the layout skills. Right. You know, he was doing the layouts, and he had that, you know, taught me about sequencing.
Right, sure.
Which is important. The way that you present your images, you guys, is very important too. You know, just kind of slopping a whole bunch of images together doesn't work. You'll see here, there's a little bit of flow. Like, I grab these kind of quickly, but you'll see there's a little bit of flow in here. And again, this is just a fraction of a much larger series. And it's done. I don't know when it's going to come out because I have my personal San Francisco book in front of it. Right. And that's a beast. There's a lot of photos. There's like 140 photos and a tremendous amount of writing. And Fred Lyon, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fred Lyon. If you're not, look him up. He wrote the foreword. That's my favorite. Fred Lyon's my favorite photographer. He is a 4th generation San Franciscan. He was in the Navy in World War II, and he's photographed a handful of presidents. He's had the cover of Sports Illustrated, Life, all these magazines.
Yeah.
Like I've been at like the flea market and picked up a magazine. And it was like oh my god, like Fred Lyon, like 19 Sports Illustrated, 1958. Wow.
Wow.
So he wrote the foreword, and check out his work. You know, I would say that's my favorite. He's probably my favorite photographer. Okay. You know, I've learned a lot from him.
Lyon, Fred Lyon?
Yeah, Lyon, Fred Lyon.
Fred Lyon.
Yeah.
Right.
Check out his San Francisco street work from the 40s and the 50s. It's gorgeous. So without further ado, here we go. Right. This is my friend Tyler here. He builds hot rods. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell by his hands, and this is just the classic, like, you know, like working man hands, you know, like I love this. You know, you can tell he's been in the garage probably all day.
Right,
like,
you can see it on the thumbs.
Yeah, you can see it on the thumbs, the nails, and this guy is brilliant with automobiles.
Right.
Brilliant.
Right.
And he has Excelsior district there on the knuckles. These are like some of the first images I shot. Like, you know, some of these where people were still like a little bit like uneasy about things, and you know, some people didn't want to be seen. Maybe
people you knew in some of these, most of these, or
some of them. Yeah. I mean, now like these are all good friends.
Sure.
But yeah, at the time, like some of them I didn't know. But like, you really, in these images, you'll really see like the brotherhood come through.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about this neighborhood is there's no skin color. You know what I mean?
Right,
like there's no, you'll see that in here. Like there's no, you know, you have every race here in this neighborhood, and that's what's beautiful to me too. And that's what I love about San Francisco.
Well, I was gonna say that speaks to the history of San Francisco over the last 50+ years that you were talking about. That's a huge part of the history and the culture of the city.
Yeah, and it's
a great shot.
Yeah, you can just see, you know, you see the brotherhood and it's, you know, it's just rad. Like here's a guy with dreads. This is Ross and Dave. Here,
okay, right.
And then here's one of our other friends, Os, and there's very different. Here's Tyler behind one of his classic hot rods here.
Wow. That's an amazing detail.
This was actually this was an iPhone photo.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
pretty... whoa, there we go. Oh, there goes, oh man, what's up with Squeens? Oh, okay, so, yeah, so the guy in the Skylark, he's chiming in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
yeah. Cool. Dude, amazing.
Yeah, and there he is right here.
Right.
So our last commenter, and this was rad right here. This was we were filming a music video this day for his album, for his Excelsior Park song off of his new album, and I love this just like one single like urban crop circle, and he's standing in the middle of it here with the boom box, and it just has this like really cool like 90s vibe.
And again,
so and that's him right there.
That's
like,
so cool.
Yeah, he just chimed in. So what's up, Squeens?
Now, so now what was this shot with?
This was with my 5D. So I start using that. Like I'll start using that for like.
So is 5D kind of your other main, or was your?
You know what? DSLR? I bought a 5D Mark II when it first came out.
Okay.
And I just now upgraded to the 5D Mark III.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And everyone was like, "Dude, what the heck?"
Right.
Like,
hey, listen, you know, it's still for many applications, not only stills, video too. It's still kind of I don't want to say the father of it all, but that rebirth.
Well, people would always be kind of clowning on me about the 5D Mark II. They're like, "Dude, I can't believe you still use that." And I was like, "Well, the day I can't pump a billboard out of it is the day that I'm going to upgrade."
No, that's it. And it's still
still running, and it's still, you know, that camera. I still have now I have another body, and
right.
I have a 5D Mark III now, which I bought used, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm like the least. When it comes to gear, as you guys can see, like
traveling light.
Like I'm like the least. Like when it comes to gear, like I'm like I know a lot about gear, but like I have the tools I like and that work for me, and I try not to get caught up in just like constantly like purchasing equipment and lenses. And
I know that's a rabbit hole that
Yeah.
If I could give my younger self one piece of advice, which is advice that was given to me, which was at the time the exact phrase. So I used to be in the music business and owned studios and stuff. And before that all happened, I was working in studios, and the studio manager that I had worked for was a really cool guy. Came from like the 60s, 70s era, so he kind of seen it all. Yeah, crazy stories there too. And his final comment to me when I was leaving to go out into the world was, "Don't become a gear slut."
Yeah.
I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Don't just like buy, just don't.
Man.
Just know what you need, and
The worst. Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't get in that rabbit hole."
I'm gonna put
and
some
I
people
did,
on blast on here.
That's
okay,
right.
Yeah, I'm
did.
gonna put some people on blast.
Yeah.
The one thing that I can't. Yeah, the one thing that bothers me is just like seeing the people that have like the $5,000 camera around their neck, and it's like a piece of jewelry.
Right.
It's not even like.
No, it's not.
They don't. It's literally.
Tool.
Yeah,
right,
it's
right.
literally jewelry.
Right.
It's neck jewelry, and I'm like, wow, oh my gosh.
Right.
So
let me see some of your images. Blurry.
Yeah,
right.
or they're just or they're just like sculptures or something, or still life.
It's just auto.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing wrong with auto, but right.
I own a Leica, but it's I had been shooting photos for a long time before I had and I have an M4. It has no meter in it, so like it's really it's really prehistoric.
That's
right. If I always joke about that, like here.
Right. Shoot something with this, right.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is the urban crop circles.
That's awesome.
This is
and dude, so much symmetry too, like
this was a fun day out there. And that was this, and we call these urban crop circles now. That's something that like we kind of made up on our own, and I'll tell you why on this next image. So this was hilarious. So maybe these were fresh, and then maybe a few minutes after, this guy rolls up, and he was really cool. I have to say, like, you'll see a lot of like police in my images, but it's not like it's always like super negative. Like this guy actually like rolled up, and he was like, "Man, what the heck is going on here? It looks like a damn spaceship landed here." And that's where that whole like urban crop circles came from.
Okay.
Like it does kind of look like just like some like the lunar module or something. So that's where if anyone was wondering, that's where it came from right there. So you'll see urban crop circles. You'll see sometimes I'll just put the swirl emoji on things.
Do you own the domain urbancropcircles.com?
No, but man, I'll tell you this is like the spinning cars has gone to new levels in the last few years.
I bet, yeah.
This was just a very lucky shot. Like I just happened to be, I think I was like doing something like on the ground, and I kind of looked up and I'm just kind of like the frame right here. It's a little off. This is a full frame. It's a little off, but it was like one of those things where I had to shoot quick, so it's uncropped.
Right.
It was just kind of like a really quick shot here. This right here, this is just a lottie-dottie, like we like to party, we don't bother nobody.
That's right. Right.
And one of my friends doing a little damage control right there. This was funny. Like somebody, I think my friend Val that I was mentioning earlier had found like all these old like mug shots of the guys in the trash.
Okay.
So this here is from 93. So this is obviously people have changed and grown up since then. But I just thought this was hilarious.
And is this you're back on film? It looks like on this one.
Yeah. So I jump back and forth.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I'm not one of those. I want to actually shed some light on this. I'm not one of those people that hashtags like film 35 millimeter grain is good. Embrace the grain. Like to me it's
embrace the grain. That's good.
To me it's just there's no difference. It's just another tool in my toolkit, and it's all the same. It's really all the same. And I think, I love seeing film like kind of, make a resurgence, and I think it's cool that people are doing it. But it doesn't compensate. It doesn't make your image any stronger. I don't want to say it doesn't compensate for weak images, but because your image was shot on film,
right? Solely because it's on film,
it doesn't give you any extra points, right. You know. And I think a lot of people are using that as a crutch, like, dude, film only, bro. Like this was on film, and it's like, okay, but you're running it through Lightroom, and it's, you know, for me, I shoot so much for my job that I would be flat broke if I was just shooting film. You know, I know people that are just, I only shoot film. Like, even your commercial work, yes, all film.
Right. There is a hashtag, by the way, shoot film, stay broke. Yeah, that's it.
If that's what you want.
Yeah.
You know, I have kids, I have mouths I got to feed.
That's right.
I can't do that.
That's right.
So that's the reason why, like, you know, we've been going through here, and there's been film, and I just don't say anything because to me it's irrelevant. It's, you know, it's just, it's, you know, I don't really care what it was shot on. A good image is a good image. Totally. You know, even if it came out of a pinhole camera. You know, and I've seen dope images come out of pinhole cameras.
It's beautiful nonetheless here, though. Right?
Yeah, and so I really, you know, I shoot film, but I don't really say much about it. You know, the tools are
focus. That's right.
Yeah, the tools. You know, I'm not the biggest Chase Jarvis fan, but I think he was the one that said the best camera on you is the one, or the best camera is the one you have on you.
Right. Yep.
I mean, that's
we quoted that this morning. By the way.
That hits the nail on the head. Like, you know, the tool is irrelevant. It's about your eye and your sensibility as a photographer.
Totally.
Your eye, especially.
Right.
And that's something you can't fake. You can't train. It's really like how you see the world.
Right. Because makes me think of the Austin
I
Powers.
do have a funny story for you, actually, about the eye.
Oh, okay.
I found myself at a gun range in Las Vegas. I'm not like a big like gun maniac person, but I found myself at a gun range, and from, you know, I've shot rifles and whatnot throughout, you know, growing up. I've shot a fair amount of rifles and shotguns and different things, but I was in there and I was messing around with some heavy artillery, and the people that were running the place, I think they were like active military. Like, I think they were like on leave or something, but they were active military. Yeah. And in the middle of it, you know, I had this huge Marine guy, like, and he tapped me. He's like, "Are you in the military?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Man, you got a good shot, man." He's like, "I thought you were like a sharpshooter in the military." And I was like, it was so loud, and I was like, and he was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "Photographer."
Right.
And he was like, "What the hell?" Like, you know, and it's really like turned me into like a sharpshooter. And that's what I said. Like, sometimes I feel like my right eye is starting to like kind of go a little bit, and that's my worst fear.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it is. This craft is all about your eye.
You see that we get some great quotes in this live stream for T-shirts and mugs.
I would like to see that. That would be man. Please make a T-shirt and a mug with one of my drivelist quotes in here.
We've had millions of them today. So cool.
So back to this. I know we're all over the place. I'm sorry, you guys. I hope we're sounding coherent.
Dude,
are we coherent right
now?
Are we coherent?
We are.
Okay, cool. So this just shows here the diversity. Like, you can see there's all walks of life in here, and I love that. And you don't see this anywhere in the world, and I'm very proud to call most of these guys like really good friends of mine. You know, they've really like embraced me and taken me in, and you know, I've learned a lot too. You know, and it's been such an amazing adventure the last 5 years.
It's amazing too, this photo, and when you're looking sort of at everyone looking at you. I mean, just the eyes, the expression.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You gotta put your mug on.
Yeah. Ooh, another.
This is rad.
That's so great.
This is rad. They start them young out there. I just love this photograph. Someone was saying this should be a T-shirt. Like, this should be a photo mist shirt.
Dude, totally. Yeah.
It's one of my friend's sons.
That looks like the book cover or something.
Yeah, you very well could. Here's this again. I don't know how they ended up in both, but they did. This I love. This is my friend JJ. This guy has incredible handles as cars, bikes, whatever. Like, this guy can just pull like this.
Whatever it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, the bike is not stolen.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody asked me that, but there are little subtleties in here that I love. As you can see, he has a number 1 up here, and this was a full frame.
Right.
And it was like number one. Yeah, number 1. And this was. Cool. He was riding like this all the way.
Single wheel, right? Unicycle.
Yeah, he was riding like this all the way down the street. I don't know how in the heck that's even possible.
It's
you know, even as somebody that's skateboarded for some like 20-some years, like I look at this and I'm like, man, what the heck?
Someone would say that's amazing core strength or something. You know?
Yeah. We call it handles.
That's right.
Yeah, we call it handles. Like, oh, that dude's got handles.
Got handles. Amazing.
This I love.
That's a great
so this
shot,
was
too.
on this. I see this guy in the Excelsior a lot. I don't know his name, but I've talked to him a few times. And I was walking down Mission, like near Russia or something. You know, the street names out there have country names.
Yeah.
And he had recognized. I think he had recognized the ferry building tattoo I have right here that I've had for a long time. He's like, oh, I got a tattoo too. And he pulled this up and he was like, I got this back in '67 in Daly City. And it was like,
nice.
And he was so proud of it, and it was like still like holding up like really strong.
I was gonna say,
like,
it looks pretty good.
But dude, look at it. This guy like just is a beast right here. You know, he's like big and, you know, and this just really kind of like sums up like the old school San Francisco. Like these are some of the guys that I would see like
wearing the
at
Giants
Candlestick
hat
back in the day. Like,
exactly. Right.
Like just this old timer that would just whoop you up if you needed to. Like, boy, come here.
That's right.
You know, and
yeah, look at his knuckle right there.
Yeah, you could tell. Like, yeah, you don't want a piece of that.
No. That ring is.
Yeah,
You know,
and it was just hilarious where he was just like,
that's
he was,
awesome.
you know, he had to show me this one that he got back in '67 in Daly City. So if you don't know, Daly City is neighbors. It neighbors San Francisco. So the Excelsior and Daly City are neighbors. Mm-hmm. So what are we saying here? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, this is a great quote.
Yeah,
there,
right on, Judah. Thank you.
These photographs, they're part of you, not just they didn't just go out on some random street to shoot, but they're part of your life, friends, neighbors, super deep. Yeah, man. I mean, and you can see it. You can see that there's.
Man, you know what? I have so much fun when I'm shooting. Like I really try hard to make it a fun experience. You know, like I know people that go out and they like to be, you know, aggressive and in your face and like. Okay, that's cool. If that's your thing, that's cool. But for me, I like to have a lot of fun with it, and I hope that shows in the images. Like I have fun. Like here, this was a great night.
Right.
We had just stormed the bus.
Right.
Like,
right.
We stopped the bus and like the driver, and we're like, hey, can we take a few photos really quickly? And the driver was like, okay. So we just like pulled over the bus.
Right.
But that's what I mean is like everybody becomes. When you have that mind state, like everyone becomes a participant. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And you're including everyone. Like even like he can't help but find it funny. You know?
Right.
This guy back here, she's just like, oh my god.
Right. Just like looking away. Right.
But we turn them into participants. You know, and like everyone becomes a player, and then it becomes like this group effort. I think this was like one of the first images I shot right here.
Really.
And you have the young dudes shooting dice, and then you have the OG here, like kind of. This is Big Throttle right here. I don't know if he's watching. Maybe he is. But anyways, like he's just kind of has the watchful eye here, like on the street, you know, and obviously back against the wall always. If you've ever watched any films, you know you always back against the wall. You see.
Oh yeah.
This are some of the youngsters. Yeah. Man, rest in peace to Ricky Rodriguez on the far right here. This kid was an amazing young man, amazing on his motorcycle. I love it here. He's just really in his element here. Yeah. And here's a group shot. This is like only a fraction of people, but man, I'm gonna just leave this for a minute so that everyone that's on here, you know.
Okay, so now this looks like some obviously wide angle fisheye, some different lens.
Yeah,
so
I want to say I was maybe about 16,
right,
16 millimeters, and one of the guys had like pulled his pickup. He had backed his pickup truck in here, so I was on the bed of the pickup truck, standing. And I love it because again, like you can just really see like the love in here, the brotherhood, the family, the loyalty. Like man, this is. You know, we need more of this in our world. This is, in my opinion, what's missing. Like this brotherhood here, and like
you've got kids and adults.
You have kids and adults, and it's great, man. You don't see this anywhere in the world, and I recognize that. Like, wow, you know, like this is so beautiful.
Right. Now you feel it in this image, man. It really.
Yeah.
There's something very special about this particular one too, because. You have so many people engaged with this.
And this is the corner store here, like you know, where like the taqueria's in there.
Right.
So it's rad. Yeah, this was cool. This was maybe about 5 years ago.
And the street sign looks so
you had to have
cool.
the street sign in there.
So cool.
man, and there's a lot of good folks in here, like just really, just really, really good brothers and sisters in there. So, yeah, and I believe that takes us to the end of what we have of my street photos for today.
Dude, that was that's a lot of stories.
What are we looking like on timing here?
So we've got approximately 20 some minutes to go.
Okay.
Before we call it a day.
Well, maybe should we take some questions and then maybe we could.
Yeah, you know, to be honest, everyone's just loving the imagery, and they're saying album cover. You know?
Album cover. Oh yeah, no, that is. You know what? I failed to mention this. Yes, some of these images were I don't know if anyone said.
And thank you for that, Ryan. Good observation.
Yeah, no, some of these were used for my friend's album cover that just came out for my friend Val, Mr. Squeens.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Even cool. Oh, so cool.
So we used some of these on the inside and on the back, and he put out a real CD. He went old school. Mm-hmm. And I believe he has a cassette tape coming out too.
That's that's had a resurgence this last year too.
Do you know that I have probably the craziest tape collection this side of the Mississippi? Still, really? I do. And if anybody's watching this that knows me, they'll agree with it. I have like, let's see, you know those 100 count.
Oh yeah. I still have a few. I think
I have like eight of those.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I have 800. I mean, I know.
That's crazy.
The crazy thing is,
do you have a tape player still?
I do.
Okay.
I have a Crosley.
Oh wow.
So it plays tapes and vinyl and CDs.
Nice.
But I'm in the market for a new tape player.
It's.
But it's crazy because I have a lot of tapes and they're worth money now. Like some of the ones like like some of the low run like
totally
San Francisco like gangster rap stuff from the mid '90s
that you could only get
get from them here.
In cassette. Yeah. Tackle Boys cassette is back. Yeah, I mean and again this is, but like Paul McCartney he's doing all these reissues. He did a reissue for Record Store Day.
Oh, okay.
They do it every April. And he did a cassette reissue of some B-sides or raw tracks from his Flowers in the Dirt album circa 1989, only on cassette.
Awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Speaking of Paul McCartney, this is kind of off subject a little bit, but I did see something from him that just it was so amazing. His response to something. He was at like the Grammys. And he showed up at a Grammy party, and they didn't know who he was.
Oh yeah,
They wouldn't let him in.
This year or last year? I remember this, right?
And it was the classiest move I've ever seen anyone make. He was like, "Well, boys, it looks like we need to get another hit." And I was like, "Man, that's like instead of being like, I'm Paul McCartney, goddammit,
right?
Like, what the hell?" Like he was just like, "Well, boys, it looks like we need to get another hit." And I was like, "Man, that is rad. That is super rad.
That's bad."
I do have something here I want to share. I would say one of the biggest motivators for me, here's a street photo of my grandfather and my great-grandfather.
Wow.
On Market Street in 1943. This is a street photo. So this is my grandfather on the left in the sailor fit, and that's Big Al on the right.
Wow.
Big Al was a bit of a gangster from what I understand. But this right here, this is why I do what I do right here. Like I look at this and I'm just like, I want people to look at this, at maybe some of my stuff down the road and be like, oh, like, and maybe have that same kind of, that same feeling, like, this is on 6th and Market, funny. So I have a pretty good idea what these guys are up to, and I'll assure you it is no good.
That's right.
Sorry to any of my family members that may be watching this. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why I do what I do, and I had no idea the story behind this photograph. I found it in my grandmother's house after she had passed away.
I was gonna say, after they had passed, or
and all it said on the back was Market Street, 1943.
Right.
But I posted this image somewhere, and somebody else saw it, and they were like, "Hey, I have a similar photo of my family from that time, like in that same area." And it turns out that there was a gentleman that was a street photographer, and I don't know his name.
Really?
And this was what he did. He would take your picture, like you would be walking down the street, and he would take your photograph, like I don't know if this is
Right.
I mean, it doesn't look like it is.
It doesn't look staged. It looks like he's walking. I mean,
yeah,
right?
it doesn't look like it. But then they'll say like, hey, I just took your photograph. Come back in 5 minutes, and I'll show it to you. And then you know, like how Ouija, you know, the photographer Ouija would from the New York Photo League, he would just do the chemistry in his trunk, and then you come back 5 minutes later, and boom,
10 cents, you have a photo,
yeah,
or whatever.
And you know, maybe a nickel later, and you're walking out of there with this, and I loved it. I was like, oh man, this is rad, and I have no idea.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I believe my grandfather was I want to say he was stationed in Treasure Island at this time, or I'm not sure, maybe in Hunters Point, maybe, I'm not sure.
You know, it's funny because not long ago, long after my grandparents had passed, I found a box that had been sort of tucked away that my grandmother had similarly had kept with photos of my grandfather, and unfortunately, like very little labeling of any kind. You know, so usually it was like maybe the year or maybe the city or something, or like who he was with or something like that. But these photos had lived in this box. You could tell, looking at the box, it had paisleys and I mean, it was obviously from the 60s. Like, she put it in a shoebox in 68.
Nice.
Sealed it.
Yeah.
Passed in 99. It gets to me in 2015.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa, what is all that? You know?
Yeah, that's like relics.
Relics.
Yeah.
And, but everyone who was sort of involved or around, they're all gone. And they never talked to my parents about these. They'd been put away, you know. And my parents were teenagers then. So it's like, and
it leaves you to like you have to make your own story.
You have to make your own story, right?
Yeah.
And some were in color, again, from the sort of 40s era, and you know, the sort of, or colorized.
I love that look too.
Oh my God.
Like how I don't know what they call that, but like where they would literally like paint
yeah. The other really odd thing was, and this was a family photo that I don't have it on my laptop, unfortunately. I'll have to send it to you because you'll appreciate it. So I guess this was a technique too in the mid 60s. So it was a family photo of my grandparents and my dad and his brother. It was shot in black and white, and then it was painted over, not just colorized. It was painted color.
See, that is just amazing.
And it was huge. I mean, they blew it up. Huge, not by today's standards, but I guess 24 by 12 inches or something.
And back then, that was a tremendous print.
Tremendous print back then.
That's a lot of work.
A lot of work, right? And it was black and white, and you could see.
And then they actually had gone in there and like. Wow.
Oil paint.
Oh man.
Right. So or maybe acrylic, you know.
So it's like still wet, maybe.
Oh yeah, no, it's I mean it
still has like
greasy texture or whatever.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
And that's what the beautiful thing about, about photography is like, they leave the images, they just leave your mind to wander, and that's what I love. You can create your own narratives.
This is really special, man.
This is why, and this is one of the reasons, like why I do it. I have some other really cool photos that I found of my, my grandmother at her family bakery, and they were from New York too.
Right. Okay.
In Queens, they had a bakery. In
Queens, my great grandparents
were from Queens.
Nice. Yeah.
But it's cool, and like from that photograph I do a little bit more digging, and I found some history on the bakery. I found out my great grandfather was fined $20 for selling spotted eggs. What is a spotted egg?
What? I don't even know.
Maybe a bad egg.
Maybe a bad right.
If you're putting it in a pastry, it's probably the same as like banana bread.
Right.
You just use old bananas.
That's right. Right. I don't know.
But anyways, yes, he was fined $20 for selling for having spotted eggs in his bakery. But this was during the Depression, so
right.
And then you know how it is. Like they don't waste. People from that era, they just didn't waste anything.
They didn't waste, and at least in my family, somehow after that, 30, 40 years later, they never told those stories. And maybe it's because their kids were sort of, again, the sort of 60s generation who were breaking away, so they didn't feel like sharing. But so, there's a bunch of these. Curiously, my great-grandparents were in the bakery business.
No way.
Yeah, way. On the East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah, my they had a bakery like near Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
and
crazy,
it's changed a lot since then.
And again, like, I have little very small images, those ones with the weird sort of borders.
Oh yeah,
and everything.
they're like the size of like a matchbook.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And at best, it's just a year. And I know it's Queens or Flushing, Queens is actually where they lived. Just because, we knew that's where they were, but no other details.
Yeah.
Nothing else. No history.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. Like I was saying earlier, I really don't think there's any coincidence that I'm a photographer. I really feel that like everything was stepping stone to get to this point. Like it was all training for me. Like the skateboarding, the writing, you know, kind of the art, and then photography. Like I don't know if I was matured enough mentally to be a photographer when I was young.
Right.
You know
okay.
What I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
Like,
there's incredible discipline, right? There's
And I guess maybe, you know, even as far as like ethics go.
Right. No, exactly.
You know,
right.
Like
totally.
You know, working at the newspaper taught me, you know, like I don't pay money for photos. I don't pay sources.
Right.
I like it to be an authentic encounter. And,
right.
you know, who knows where my head would have been at if I started walking, you know, running around at age 18, you know, like taking photographs, right. 17.
Probably a very different spin on things.
But I will tell you this, is I did have a very good understanding of what made a good photograph from skateboarding, because as a kid, I literally studied the skateboard magazines. Like, I studied them.
Right.
And I would notice things like, okay, like, wow, these are all shot like very close, and you never see the person's backside. It's always the front side.
Right.
And okay, there's light head on, but then there's lights coming from over here too.
Right.
You know, and so I had like a basic before I even touched it, like I had a really good understanding of what made a good skate photograph, rather.
Right.
And then, but the two are very similar. Like skate photographs and street photographs are very similar in the sense that it happens like this.
Right.
You know,
super
it's just
fast.
Before you know it, like you're like, oh shit, what the heck
over.
happened?
Right.
You know, like, oh man.
Did you get the jump? Oh no, I was watching it with my own eyes. Right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of misses. You know,
right.
like I've had a lot of misses with shooting skateboarding, and I've had misses, you know, with street photography. Right. I almost want to put out a book that's just like all of like
the shot that wasn't the shot. Right. Yeah.
Like I've had so many of those where I was just like, you know, and you
out of focus, like. Is that one? Okay, so
no, not out of focus.
Okay,
it would usually be like
the motion,
the movement changed, or like the movement changed, or something like came into the background quickly.
Right. So you've got people sort of.
Or I hesitated.
Inadvertent photo.
I've had that a lot where I've hesitated.
Right, and hesitation kills it.
And hesitation kills it. I've had that a lot where I'm like.
Right.
You know, and then I'm like, okay, you're thinking too much.
Right.
Like you're thinking too much.
Someone's asking, do you print any of these, and how's your experience with printing?
I used to do a lot of shows, but
and do you print on a special printer? Or?
I don't. Okay. I don't. I've done some time in the dark room. I've printed my own images, but yeah, I do print. You know, I'm not really. You know, I'll print for friends and whatnot. I don't really sell prints. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but it's just something that I never really. I mean, I feel like street photographs are better. They fit better into books as a collection. Like, yeah, it's rare. You do get those, you know, those street images that are just gorgeous, but they look better in in a collection, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think people, you know. I'm someone who collects photo books, and that's you know the coffee table book thing, and I love this, and something about the image being printed. You're right, and when it's in a proper collection like this, you know, like the Excelsior collection or something. I mean, it feels like that needs to be something that's just going to allow it to continue to be preserved and passed on and shared and have the stories told. And that was something I was going to ask you too. Was for that project, are you? Is there? I mean, you've got the forward, but are you sort of giving the story behind the image, or is there
the Excelsior? Yeah, there's a lot of writing. There's a lot of writing.
I would assume.
Yeah,
so.
There's a ton of writing. It's going to be a monster. But I'm excited, and you know, I'm really excited to put it out there. It's something. I think it's some of my strongest work. Because again, it's like whenever you put me into a situation where I can like take more than 5 seconds to. You know, to make the magic work, like things, you know, it was boot camp for me, you know. So if I get into a situation where it's like semi-posed, you know, it's game on.
It's game on. Roger was saying, he'd love to hear more tomorrow about focus and how you nail it in quick street photography.
Oh yeah,
all your images are so sharp. And
man, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We got a lot of people in Europe going to bed. 1:46 a.m. for. Herr Malvorf, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for staying. Yeah, thank you everybody for for staying up. And I should gallery. You should gallery. Oh yeah, you know the last show I did, as a matter of fact, I did a show at Book and Job Gallery here in San Francisco's Tenderloin, and we brought the Excelsior to the Tenderloin.
Oh, nice.
And I gave away all of my prints.
Really?
At the end of the night,
Dude.
I gave away 25 beautiful 20 by 30s or 16 by 20. I don't remember what they were, but I gave them away. People were like, "Oh, I really like that. I'm gonna take it."
Dude, that's
to the right people. There were certain images that I wanted certain people to have, but that's how it is for me. Like I feel like I'm not like a photo Gestapo with that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like if
no, dude, it comes. I mean, it's so obvious looking at these images that it's beyond passion. It's part of you.
It's my life.
It's
your
life.
This is my life.
And the fact that you're not just sharing technique and talking the stories, but giving it to people. I mean, I'm getting like all weepy.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah,
that,
like
Really,
some of our friends that aren't here any longer. I had some photos of him up, and and I had to make sure like that his mom got these images. I really wanted to make sure that his mom had these photographs, and
because people don't really do this so much anymore. I mean, okay, you have a giveaway, but it's like, oh, here's the collection. Please take them.
Yeah,
value them. If you if you want this, if you value this, it's yours.
That's how I am, man. I try
huge.
to, like I said, like everything I do. My friends and my relationships with people mean more to me than pictures.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, like I always remember that, like they're just photographs.
Well, your friends and family are very fortunate and lucky to have someone who can capture.
I do that all the time.
Capture that emotion.
My friends will be like,
"Hey,
man, do you think like you could take a few pictures at my friend's birthday, at my son's birthday, like just one or two, or like here's a good example. Like, okay, I want to tell this is like some real this is real here.
Okay,
is I have a friend who's serving time in a California correctional facility, and he's trying to run a clothing line, and he's trying to like make his life better.
Right.
And he hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, like how much would you charge me for a half hour of your time?" And I'm like, "Oh man, like I don't want to ever be that dude, where I'm like, oh well, that'll be about, let me see, And I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. And I'm gonna come and I'm gonna hang out for a few hours.
Right.
And that's just
right.
And that's what that's the only way you can be successful at street photography is like it's all about community. Right. Giving back to the community that you take from. We do so much taking as photographers, taking people's time, taking their picture, take. So for me, that's why I'm always trying to like find ways that I can give back, to people via my craft. Like this is, it's not difficult for me to do it. So I'm going to just share it with the people that I feel that need it. Like, if I can make your life easier by giving you some photography, doing some photo work for you, then let's do it.
Yeah.
If I can help you in your mission and help whatever you're trying to do, and that's just how I ride. At the end of the day, like it's supposed to be fun. It's not, we're not finding cures for cancer. It's, there's this thing with like street photographers being incredibly serious. And it's almost to the point where it's like, whoa, man, like, dude, they're just pictures, man.
Right.
Like, it's just there's gonna be another picture that comes along like it, And I always remind myself that at the end of the day, I just push the button, man. I rely on other people's energy,
right?
And I'm just happen to see it.
Dude, that's such a good mantra, really, because, like you said, I mean, the image, your eye is part of it, gear, very small part of it, but it's the subject in front of that lens, the sensibility of it, that makes it, makes the reactions that everyone here is having. I think that people have and companies have had to seeing your work.
And you can't teach it. Like you can, like I know there's like a lot of street photography workshops, but it's something that like you can teach best practices, and that's what I always do is like, hey, this is what works for me.
Right.
It may not work for you, but it works for me, and and just go out there and have fun, man. Don't worry about any rules.
Right. Don't worry about your hashtags. Don't worry about the likes.
It's all like in the day that you're not having fun, like maybe it's time to like pick up something else.
Right.
So,
I think that's a great way to end it, man.
I
Travis, dude.
Man, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. This is amazing. So tomorrow maybe we'll visit a little photo retouching, some of the process.
Yeah, we'll do some retouching, some commercial work.
I know
you guys wanted to speak about mobile, and I have a tremendous collection of mobile photography.
So we've got 2 more days with Travis, again tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you so much for joining us on Adobe Live. For myself and Michael Shez and Travis and all of our guests today. This has been amazing. Thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow promptly at 9 a.m. Pacific. Until then, have a great one, and we will see you then. Take care, everybody.
Awesome.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, guys.